I'm Michael Rynowecer, president of the BTI Consulting Group. And what I'd like to do is talk with you today a little bit about how to cut costs, but not just cut costs, but also cut costs while we're adding some value. I've been interviewing top legal decision makers for a couple of decades now. What I'd like to do is point to 5 areas that really provide opportunity to cut costs and add value. The first one is a request for value. And what it is it's like a miniature RFP, except you ban anyone from talking about rates. And what you're asking for is, and you're going to issue this to your top major law firms that you're working with. Typically, you're going to issue this to a relatively small number of law firms, and you're going to say, you want their ideas, their approaches on what they could do differently that would save on costs and maybe make life easier for both of you. We recommend that when you do this, that you ban any law firm from talking about rates, because it's too easy to cut rates. The hard work comes in changing your processes, your interactions, your communications. So if you can issue this with a relatively short time frame, because what we found is your law firms have pretty good ideas on how they can help you and how they can streamline or reduce cost. Once they start really studying it on end, the incremental value kind of declines. So we recommend a short document, a short response, and a short elapsed time for response, no talking about rates. This should be no more than a page, page and a half, and you can have a lot of fun. And inevitably, if you put this out to 10 law firms, you're gonna find you're gonna get 2 or 3 really thoughtful responses. One will not come from the law firm that you expect. You'll be pleasantly surprised. And everyone I know that have done this has really gotten a lot of value, enjoyed the process, and then made them rethink about their roster that they work with. Second, I try to encourage you to take a look at what I call the self-inflicted costs. So many of them have their own little subsystems. They have their own Excel worksheets. They have their own approval processes. They have their own record keeping for all the different law firms and all the assignments and all the matters and the projects that they're working on. And while that doesn't sound like very much, your attorneys spend anywhere between 18 and 35% of their time on administration. You start multiplying all that time out and all the individual little subsystems that exist out there, this starts to turn into a lot of money, not because of the subsystems themselves, but this requires communication, it requires transfer of data, it requires handling data that has never been audited, that does not go through a process to make sure when it lands from one place to another, that it is correct and accurate, because people make typing mistakes and things happen. So this ends up being very expensive. And we encourage you to look and see, to the extent you can, identify the systems that are common to everyone. Because everyone who has these subsystems, there's a core of things they're tracking that are common to everyone. If you can extract those and share something, this is going to save you a lot of time and it's going to save you a lot of money. One really, really interesting place to save money is by using fewer law firms. We are finding that on a kind of every 3 to 5 year basis, clients will go through and they will either increase or decrease the number of law firms that they're working with. Typically, as your needs change, we find hiring new law firms because current law firms either can't meet the need, they're too busy, they don't respond. Our research shows that if you can go down from 22 to less than 10, you can probably reduce your costs by as much as 18%, because what happens is the accumulated knowledge, not just of your business, but the accumulated knowledge of how you do business with law firms, what your billing guidelines are, what they're going to be, all the different nuances of how you do business with law firms, combined with the accumulated knowledge of experience, then you start to save a lot of money. You save even more money when you use fewer law firms if you can get your law firm to assign a partner who is fully accountable for what goes on at your company. Some law firms have this, some don't. The ones that do tends to have happier clients, and their clients tend to get more value and get things done at a lower cost. So this can be very effective. You can do this through RFP, although I don't recommend it. We have found that the most effective way to trim down the law firm roster is to have your people sit in a room, find out and rank just on a scale of even 1 to 10. who's best, who isn't best, what it means if they were to disappear, and then kind of come up with a consolidated list. If you bring your staff together, I think you'd be surprised at the level of agreement on who should stay. There's always going to be disagreement on a couple, but that's part of the process. So you either decide to deal with that, you put that aside, and if you don't cut back as far as you'd like, you're still going to get most of the savings. So this is a great way to really save money and make your life a little bit easier. This is something that, I recommend that you borrow from the engineering community, government contractors. They have a metric called elapsed time to complete. And elapsed time to complete is when a organization will look at a project and they'll say, now we're 40% done with the project. We have a whole new body of information. Based on every single thing that we know, how long will it take to complete this project? And they will compare that to their original estimate. Sometimes they're under, sometimes they're over, sometimes they're right on the mark. It forces your law firms to take a hard look at where they are, what they've learned, and by doing this on a regular basis, say twice a year if it's a big matter, you're going to find that if you stop and take a look, you'll say, I don't think we need to do this part anymore. Or based on this new information, it's going to take longer than we thought, or we have to do something differently. That's how integral it is to getting things done and keeping costs under control. More importantly, in your case, it's going to lower them. So this is an opportunity, something a little bit different. Might want to get some help from your friends in IT or engineering, but it is not a complex process. It's a new process. And again, will save you time, money, and create value. Alternative fee arrangement. We've heard so much about them. Every legal department are using alternative fees in some way or want to. The average savings right now is 18% over rate times hours. There's a lot of trust required in using an alternative fee. So you've got to have a law firm that you really think can deliver. If they're going to come back to you every week and say things are different, things aren't what we thought, then that's not going to be a successful endeavor into alternative fees. Almost every law firm that does an alternative fee does an estimate to complete. They may not tell you about it, but now that they're on a fixed fee, they're watching everything they're doing like a hawk. Clients tell us that they get more client focused, they get more strategy because law firms are just a little bit more kind of hyper focused on reaching the goal. And really you have to have the confidence that your law firm is going to deliver on what they say. And that doesn't mean you don't get frequent updates. It doesn't mean you don't stay in touch. But at the end of the day, you have to believe in that number unless they come to you and say, there's been a material change in facts. And that's something that, well, if that happens, that happens. If they come to you early, that's okay. If they come to you after the fact, then, I think they've made a mistake and they should have told you. Working with firms you trust, if there's an ounce of mistrust or not even mistrust, an ounce of a lack of confidence, then find another firm. But if you can, moving to a fixed fee or a fixed fee by phase. If you have a big litigation matter, you don't know what the phase 3 is going to be, well, you come up with a fixed fee for phase 1, and you work on one for phase 2, then for phase 3. Almost everyone I speak to who's using a fixed fee where it works is very, very happy with the outcome. They'll say things happen faster. They happen in a more streamlined way. There's more communication. So you get more comfort in the overall process. Some partners at firms are authorized to enter into a fixed fee. Others have to go back to a committee. If they have to go back to a committee, that's not a good sign. You want a firm that can enter into an agreement because the partners have the confidence and the firm has the systems to be able to do that. If we do those 5 things, some of these you're putting the work on the law firm, like the request for value, the alternative fees. Some you're taking on the work where you look for the self-inflicted costs. The idea is that if everybody takes just even one of these strategies, one of these tactics, or takes one and assigns it to a committee within your department and gives them, 5 days, 10 days to come up with new ideas, it's my experience that even just attacking one will bring value, will bring savings, and will make everybody that's part of the process feel a little bit better about the changes that have been made and that they've had their kind of input and their role in making things better than they were. I think the more things you can do, including this, that are substantive, that bring the group together, that's an added benefit. That's going to add value and lower your cost of operations. I welcome you to reach out and give me a call, contact me by email. I wish you the best of luck in implementing these